The Dodgers bullpen blew games in 2025. Now it might be the most dangerous unit in baseball, and October could look very different.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? I'm Harry Ruiz. That's Travis Rodgers, and it's time for Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. On today's show, from our listener line, we get this question: how is Walker Buehler still employed? What do the 32 non-roster invitees really tell us about the Dodgers' long-term plan? But first, Travis, is this bullpen built to dominate?
They got a lot of guys. They got a lot of options, that's for sure. And it seems like they keep adding people left and right. So they've dominated everything else. Why not? Can't wait to talk about it.
You can catch Travis every weekday afternoon from 3 to 6 on 710 ESPN LA, holding it down on the Travis and DeMarco Show. And if you're not in Southern California or you're on the move, the ESPN LA app keeps you plugged in no matter where you are. As for me, when I'm not on the call for USC football in Spanish, this is home base, breaking down Dodgers baseball with you day in and day out. If today's your first time here, welcome in. You picked a good place to land. And if you're an everydayer, you already know this show doesn't work without you. Are you watching on YouTube? Do us a favor, tap that like button, jump into the comments, and make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss an episode. Listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your pods, a quick 5-star rating helps this show reach even more Dodgers fans. And if you ever want your voice on the show, the Locked On Dodger line is always open via text or voicemail, 279-3-LOCKED or 279-356-2533. We heard from a first-timer later on the show. But late innings lockdown or just paper power? The Dodgers didn't just tweak the bullpen, they made a statement. Edwin "Sugar" Diaz is now your closer. 3 years, $69 million. That's not a we'll see how it goes move. That's a we are done messing around in the 9th inning type of move. But here's the thing, though. We said something similar last year. On paper, that 2025 bullpen looked dominant. In reality, it was volatile, unpredictable, and at times unreliable, Travis. So what's actually different this time?
Well, I think you said it. I think that, the Dodgers thought they did what you said a year ago with Tanner Scott. And I think they thought that they kind of bought an insurance policy on top of that with Kirby Yates. Both of those guys underperformed, by huge margins. And yeah, I think Edwin Diaz is a more accomplished pitcher than Scott is, but not by 100 miles. He's not. It's an upgrade for sure, but he's had seasons in his career that have been kind of okay. He's had seasons where he's been lights out, and I think that's what the Dodgers are doing with their bullpen this season, which is position players typically, starting pitchers typically are kind of going to give you what they give you. The fluctuation in what they give you is pretty rare. If you get a guy one year that's really good, it's very rare where he's very bad the next year and then very good again. They don't kind of go ping pong between good and bad. They're either pretty good or they're pretty average or they're a little below average, and they kind of sit where they sit, and there's not a huge fluctuation. Relief pitchers fluctuate like crazy, and that's what makes it so hard to build a bullpen consistently year after year that is always pretty good, because guys that are good one year can turn around and be wildly ineffective the next year. I think this is why guys like Alex Vezia are so valuable, because he really is kind of one of the exceptions that provides you a pretty baseline performance year after year. I'm optimistic with Diaz. I think he's going to be good. This is one of the reasons I think Tanner Scott has a chance to have a pretty good year too in a Dodger uniform, because it happens all the time. Relief pitchers have bad years. They come back with good ones. They come back in a third year and you don't know what you're going to get. So I think that's part of the calculus and what they're doing, bringing back Evan Phillips yesterday. And it's a numbers game. If I got a lot of guys, if 2 or 3 of them go bad, it's not the end of the world, because I got 4 or 5 more that I can throw in there in their place. And I just think they're trying to flood the zone with numbers. Talented guys, to be sure, but this is how you build a bullpen, is just give yourself 100 different options to try to get those last few outs.
Yeah, and so far, it feels like there's the core five. These names feel secure, in my opinion. Edwin Diaz, Tanner Scott, Brusdar Graterol, Alex Vesia, and Blake Treinen. And in Diaz, this gives the Dodgers something that they haven't truly committed to in years, a defined closer, because since Kenley Jansen, it's been matchup chess. They wanted Tanner Scott to be that closer, but it became pretty clear early on that it wasn't the case in 2025. Now it's simple. The ninth inning, it's a close game. The Dodgers are up. Who are you sending to the mound? Give the ball to Edwin Diaz. That clarity, in my opinion, should help stabilize Scott and Treinen, both of whom have struggled mightily as of late for the boys in blue, especially last season in shifting roles. You know that they're not going to be in the ninth inning except if Diaz pitches in consecutive days or too many times in a series. You put those guys in for 1 or 2 times in a week, but it's Edwin Diaz's role. Scott's ERA, man, it ballooned. Treinen battled it. Inconsistency left and right, but now that you have defined jobs, this might actually help these guys who had us pulling our hairs. I don't have a hat today, but I was even pulling the very few hairs I had, being like, come on, you have to do better. So those right there, Travis, in a perfect world for the Dodgers, it's like, are 3 guys that you have to rely on big time. And then there's Vesia, the firefighter. He became the guy that you just trust when the inning is already on fire. And the X factor is Graterol, who missed all of 2025, shoulder surgery. But you know that when he's healthy, he can be a guy that with the no effort at all is throwing 100 plus.
Yeah, I think they're all kind of different. I think that, the idea of having this plan, sure, but they had a plan a year ago and the plan was, torched by the middle of the season. It just, you can have all the plans in the world. It doesn't mean that they're going to work. And by we can have a plan and it can actually turn out better than you thought too. That's certainly a possibility. Kind of going through it one by one. I think Treinen is a perfect example about what I was talking about a second ago. Blake Treinen is either horrible or awesome. There's almost no middle ground with him. He's either one of those guys that you go back to the 2024 World Series. Blake Treinen was untouchable. He was throwing, laser beam wiffle balls up there that nobody could touch. Last season, when he would come in the game, everybody's closing their eyes and just praying that he was able to get through an inning because he just had a really rough year and he gets hurt a lot. He misses a lot of time. So Treinen is a perfect example of just, I don't know what the heck's going to come out every single season. And I don't think he does either. And it's not a lack of effort or commitment or anything. That's just the randomness of how he pitches. Graterol's got an incredible arm, like you mentioned. Graterol is maybe the easiest throwing 100-mile-an-hour guy I've ever seen in my life. He just kind of looks like he's playing catch and the ball just explodes. You know what else he doesn't do a bunch of? Get a lot of guys out. It's weird. Like for a guy that has that kind of stuff, he gets hit oddly hard and doesn't make a ton of guys swing and miss by modern Major League Baseball standards. Plus, he's hurt a lot. So he's another one that I think is a big question mark. Vesia, I got nothing but great things to say about him. I think he is incredibly valuable. And Scott, we'll see. Like I've said many, many times, I expect him to have a good year. I think he's a very good pitcher who had a very bad season. I think that thing will correct itself. But, the bullpens are the great mysteries. I think you're right. I think that they're trying to fix it with the best guy on the market, which Edwin Diaz was. I think Diaz will give them, some sort of routine stability in that ninth inning, but that assumes that he stays healthy. That assumes that he's effective. And who knows, right? That stuff this is why it's so hard to predict the future, because relief pitchers are just so incredibly volatile.
No doubt about it. And that right there that we brought up, that's 5 arms. Bullpens aren't 5-man units. No. The battle for the rest is you got 2 types of pitchers competing for spots. The true levers, Jack Dreyer, Edgardo Henriquez, Will Klein, Brock Stewart, and Evan Phillips once he's healthy. And you might be asking yourself, Phillips, is he on the team? Yes. Yesterday, Wednesday, the Dodgers signed Phillips, optioned
I know.
Once again, Ben Ward fed. I feel bad
Yeah.
for that guy. He's been optioned so many times over the last couple of weeks between the Dodgers and the Reds. So it's a big question mark is if he's going to be able to sneak through waivers and be not option. He was waived by the Dodgers. See if he gets through to the minor leagues. But those are some options. Phillips, he had Tommy John surgery in May last year, so you're shooting more for June type of comeback, if not July. And then you have the length options: Ben Kasparius, Kyle Hurt, Justin Robleski, and you're looking for 3, maybe 4 guys out of this group. Let's remember the Dodgers have Shohei Ohtani, a two-way player that helps a lot with, we have an extra pitcher in our best batter in the lineup. So that helps out a lot right there, Travis.
Yeah, they've got options, coming out of their ears. I think Emmett Sheehan is an option, River Ryan is an option, and these guys that are starting pitchers. But if their starting pitchers are starting, that doesn't leave a lot of innings for those guys. So that means they got to get them somewhere. Now, maybe they use those innings in the minor leagues to keep them sharp and they want to stretch them out as starters. That's a possibility. But we've seen this before, that you think you got one thing and then a week and a half, 2 weeks, a month into the season, it's totally different. And you got guys pitching in roles that you didn't anticipate, but they've got the thing in the bullpen that they have in the starting rotation, which is they have more guys than they have spots for them. But one of my favorite baseball expressions of all time is these things tend to take care of themselves, and I believe that they will this year. Guys miss time, guys get hurt, guys get traded. You have needs in other places that you got to flip pitchers to go do this, that, and the other. But there will be lots and lots of options, and that this is why they are who they are, that they never get caught short. They get caught with surpluses.
Yeah, and even throw out a name out there like Bobby Miller. Is he going to be able to bounce back from what was a terrible year last year? And that right there, it's like a group that you see all those names, you see all these pieces of the puzzle, and it's like, hey, that's deep, that's talented, but also unproven as a group. So if this unit it hits its ceiling, the Dodgers will be shorting games to 5 innings. They won't need their starters to go more than just being qualified for the wins. But at the same time, if it doesn't, we're going to be having the same conversation that we had last year going into late September. It's like, who the hell is going to be closing these games for the Dodgers when the playoffs roll around?
I'll tell you this, and I'm looking at the date right now. It's February 12th as we're recording this podcast. There will be a time in this season where you and I are having a conversation going, man, they don't have enough arms. How are they going to get through the next week or the next month? They're just way short. They need to make a deal, or they need to go to the minor leagues, because every team deals with it where you're just a guy or two short. And this is why they've got, 2 starting rotations. They've got 2 bullpens full of guys, because they know as well as anybody else that it is a long season and guys come and go and guys overperform and underperform, and you're constantly shuffling.
Yeah, and when you're looking for other guys, it's important to talk about this. Next on Locked On Dodgers, the Dodgers invited 32 non-roster players to spring training. 9 of them are top prospects, but here's the uncomfortable question. Is this development, or is this an audition for teams like Detroit and Pittsburgh?
This season, tax season does not have to take over your life, right? This season, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and go about your day. How nice would that be? Because with TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress and without the guesswork. So instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person, or if you'd rather, you can connect online. They're going to handle it all, from W-2s to self-employed forms, and work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documents. You just keep going about your day, and then you get updates right in the TurboTax app. It is a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing that an expert is handling all of it. And for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. That's if a TurboTax expert did not file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today.
Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Dodgers with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more. All for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to LockedOnDodgers.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. Spring training or trade showcase. The Dodgers just invited 32 non-roster players to camp. That's not unusual. Who's on the list, though? That's what makes it very interesting. 9 top prospects, including a wave of outfield talent like Zyhir Hope, Josue Paula, Eduardo Quintero, Mike Sirota. But here's the reality. There is no room for these guys. Teoscar Hernandez, Andy Pages, Kyle Tucker. That outfield is locked for the foreseeable future. So what's this really about, Travis? FaceTime or front office leverage for the boys in blue?
Two things can be true at the same time, right? Both. That this is an opportunity for these guys to, force their way onto the team, which occasionally happens. I think it's less likely to happen with this group just because you have so many veteran guys that are kind of, traffic on the road in front of them. But look, I'm sure that every guy that is in the Dodger system right now has dreams of playing at Dodger Stadium and hosting a World Series championship and getting the game-winning hit and all of that stuff. That is their dream when you get drafted by a team like the Dodgers or signed with a team like the Dodgers. But the fact of the matter is, you have a much better chance of playing somewhere else than you do on this team. There's just not a lot of vacancies here. So if I know that my path to the big leagues is really narrow in LA, it doesn't mean that it's really narrow elsewhere. There could be a lot of opportunities elsewhere. If I go out and kill it in spring training and someone else comes in with an opportunity, that's good for me. So I think that I think it's both. I think that everybody on the Dodger roster, whether it's a 40-man roster or a non-roster invitee, is fighting like crazy to make that team. But, Harry, you work in the NFL. I do a lot of stuff with the LA Rams. There's the old thing, put good work on tape. They will find you, right? They just will find you because there are 30 teams in this league and there are not enough good players to go around. So if you can put some good stuff out there, teams will come knocking on the door and give you a chance to do it. So I think that's what it is for a lot of the guys. As far as the outfield goes, look, I love Teoscar Hernandez. I think he's been an incredible addition. If you told me right now Teoscar Hernandez is not on this team by the end of the year, I'd believe you. If you told me that at some point he underperforms to where they need to try something else, I think I'd probably believe you. If he got injured at some point and an opportunity presents itself that way, I'd believe you. Andy Pages, I'm big on. I think he's a really good player, but there's still a possibility where it just doesn't come together for him and there's more opportunities there. So there are chances in the Dodgers. It's just not like you're not playing for the Pittsburgh Pirates or the Miami Marlins, where if you have a good spring, you're going to make the team. It's a little more difficult than that here.
No doubt about it. And when you talk about Teoscar Hernandez, he's on a 3-year deal. He has 2 more seasons left on his contract and an option year. And then Andy Pages, he's on his rookie contract as well. So they still have time with the boys in blue. And Kyle Tucker, he has that 3-year contract as well. And he has options after the 2nd year. So it's like, hey, it's something where the Dodgers, right now, they don't need outfielders, but in the future, it can be a case where they need it. And big league camp, not yet, exactly. Big league camp, it gives prospects exposure. They are able to learn routines. They work alongside the stars. They get evaluated up close, but it also does something else. It raises their value because spring training is baseball's showroom floor. It's something where it's like instead of just having them play in single A, double A, AAA, they're actually playing with some big leaguers. And now this year, especially with the World Baseball Classic, there's going to be a lot of stars away from their teams, and that's going to open opportunities more often than you would in this type of games. And if Hope Barrows big league velocity, if Paula flashes advanced plate discipline, if James Tibbs or Zach Earhart look polished, you know who's going to be watching? Yes, the Dodgers front office, but also other GMs. And what do the boys in blue do? They don't hoard prospects. They weaponize them. Travis, how many players in the opening day lineup are projected to be homegrown guys?
Not many.
Will Smith, Andy Pages.
Yeah.
It's not like previous years where you had them left and right.
No, it's very different, and it's just where they are in the cycle of all of it. And I agree with everything you said, but the opposite of what you said is also true. They can also decrease their value. They can also go out and get on a stage where everybody sees them and everybody goes, oh, okay. Like it cuts both ways. If you go out there and you perform against other big leaguers, it's like, all right, that your profile rises and you have a chance to maybe jump onto another team and whatnot. But if you go out there and you start seeing some major league caliber pitching in spring training and you struggle, now you could chalk it up to it's spring training. It really doesn't matter. But if you go out there and you look like you're a little over your skis, then your value comes down a little bit. So it does cut, and not just to other teams, but for the organization itself. Like, I mean, we're all human beings, and you try to put everything into its proper context and you try to understand what it is that guys are doing in any given moment. But if your last memory is of a guy struggling like crazy in spring training, you're going to be less likely to buy into it than it is if a guy that goes out there and tears the cover off the ball. I personally, and this is just me, I kind of throw everything out the window in spring training. I really don't think it good, bad, or anywhere in between, because it's not the same thing. It's not the same level of intensity. That being said, if a guy's great, you're going to kind of turn your head and look. If a guy's bad, you're like, ay. Now, sometimes it's, who was terrible in spring training when he first showed up in the major leagues? Shohei Ohtani was terrible. You know who was terrible when he first showed up in the major leagues? Ichiro Suzuki. So sometimes it makes no difference at all. We saw Yamamoto struggle in spring training a little bit. It just doesn't really matter until it does. So I think it cuts both ways as far as raising potentially or decreasing your value depending on who's doing the evaluations.
And even if you don't have a good spring training, you just be like, hey, it was just spring training. Go back to minor league ball, reshape your value, and then you're going to be potentially used in a trade later on, because those lists of top prospects, they're there. And sometimes people just bite at the bait, being like, hey, he's the number 1 prospect. He's the number 5 prospect, whatever, bring him in. And for most of these guys, the path to the majors in LA is narrow. The path to being a centerpiece trade asset, that's much wider, and that's not a knock. That's how you stay in an elite position in this sport. And look, it's about valuation, and if someone like Tarek School becomes available, the receipts from Glendale, they could matter. Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, Walker Buehler looked revived at the end of last year with the Phillies, so why is he still unsigned? We'll get into that next. Don't forget to follow Locked On Dodgers not only on YouTube, but on X, Instagram, and TikTok as well. You can find Travis on social media at Travis Rodgers on X and Instagram. Meanwhile, I'm at Harry Ruiz on X, at Harry_Ruiz on Instagram, and at Harry Ruiz_ on TikTok. How is Walker Buehler still available? We head over to our Locked On Dodgers listener line, where Matt from Orange hit us up and asked us about the man who threw the last pitch in the 2024 World Series for the boys in blue. Let's hand it over to Matt.
Hey guys, this is Matt calling from Orange, California, down here in Angel territory. But I've been a diehard Dodger fan since the late 70s, early 80s. I just want to call and say I really enjoy your guys' show. It's hands down the best Dodger podcast there is. I've listened to many of them, and I love the energy you bring, Harry, and Travis. I love the knowledge and insight that you bring. I was very happy to see that you guys created this podcast, because I used to get my daily AM commute Dodger news from Travis on his network, but then they moved his time slot to the afternoon, and I was very disappointed on my way in. And once I found this podcast and that you guys drop it usually in the morning, it gives me that dose that I need to get my day started. That 45-minute drive down the 55 can be brutal, and you guys really make it worth it. I love the fact that you guys don't cater to everything, all the hype stories, but you're very insightful, and you're very knowledgeable, and I really enjoy the show. I hope you guys continue it. And I just want to say thanks. I'm really enjoying it. And what do you guys think about Walker Buehler not being signed yet? Crazy world we live in. But anyway, looking forward to the season. Go Dodgers, and keep it locked on.
Hey, we appreciate the kind words right there from Matt in Orange. Travis, just right here, nobody's listening. You miss those morning shows too, right, man? You love being out there in the morning.
Oh, yeah. Mornings are where it's at. Let me just tell you that. In the radio world, the morning is where it's at. I love where I am right now. Don't get me wrong, but I appreciate the kind words, Matt. I miss the mornings too. So now you just listen to me on your way home as opposed to on your way in, and you'll still get your daily dose.
No doubt about it. All right, this one's fascinating. Walker Buehler, he's 31. He's a two-time All-Star. October experience with frontline stuff, at least mostly. His stint over with Boston to start off 2025 was rough. There's no sugarcoating that. But after landing in Philadelphia late in the year, he looked sharp. 3 appearances, I know, not a lot, but sub-1 ERA in those 3 appearances. Command looked cleaner. Velocity ticked up. But the sample size, it's still a small one. So is it enough to show that he's not done? Why isn't he signed right now, Travis? It's a very interesting question how this guy went from being considered by many as the replacement for Clayton Kershaw to now not having a team when he's 31 years old.
Yeah, Walker Buehler is one of those guys that I loved in a Dodger uniform. The way that he would compete, the fact that he wore his emotions on his sleeve. I loved Walker Buehler. I think he was a really fun player to watch, and I liked his energy, for lack of a better word. Like, you knew what he was on his mind. Like, Walker Buehler did not pitch stoically; he pitched emotionally, and I really liked that. He's just not what he used to be. I know that he had a little bit of a bounce in Philadelphia, but even keep in mind, go back to the Dodger 2024 World Championship. Walker Buehler being a part of that was an incredibly pleasant surprise. That was not what they thought they were going to get. He struggled throughout. Remember, they sent him away for a huge chunk of that season to try to figure out what it was that wasn't working for him. That it just never, after he had that second arm problem, he never really came back and was the same guy again. Now, he was able to channel it for little pockets here and there. We all saw Yankee Stadium where he wins the game and he's got his hands out in the, are you entertained position. It was great. And I will be forever a fan of Walker Buehler's, but I don't think it's a huge mystery why he's not on a team right now. He's just not pitching well enough over a longer period enough time. He'll land somewhere. Somebody like we talked about in the opening segment, Harry, the teams always need pitching, and he's proven he can get people out in the major leagues. So I don't think that it's going to be like he's done at 31 years old and never pitches in the big leagues again. He'll play, and he'll play on for somebody, but I think he's down the list of options for a lot of people. That's one of those, hey, we need a guy who's on. Walker Buehler's out there. Now, the Red Sox still owe him $25 million. They got to eat some of that. I don't know how much more whoever signs him might have to pick up for that. Probably just the league minimum. The Red Sox are on the hook for the rest of it. But there's just a lot of there's more question marks in Walker Buehler at this point in his career than you are. Like, he's a great name. He's a great competitor. But when it comes to actually getting guys out at this point, it's a question mark more than anything else. I'm not surprised that he's still looking for a spot.
Yeah, and a few possibilities are that he just might be waiting and holding out for the right situation. Let's remember Blake Snell a couple of years back when he signed with the Giants. He didn't sign until like right before the season started. So that's something that could be. But obviously, Blake Snell, you're talking about one of the best pitchers in baseball. Walker Buehler, not in the same scenario right now. Or he could be waiting just for a team that potentially gets an injury in their rotation. And it's like, hey, we can bring you in and you're not just going to be someone that's a middle reliever. You can actually be a starter for us until we wait and have this starter back into our rotation. And 2 projected fits are fascinating, Travis, and they're both in Southern California. Projections have him potentially signing with the Padres or the Angels, and that would have him going mano a mano with the Dodgers more often than not, more often than if he goes like last year to the Red Sox. So that would be fun. That would be interesting to have Walker Buehler pitching against the boys in blue. And then there's another one that came out of left field that I didn't see coming, but that it's a good fit. The Reds. Hometown narrative. It makes sense. He's from Louisville, Kentucky. Cincinnati's an hour and a half drive away. It would be like a homecoming for him. But here's what's interesting. We're just days away from spring training games starting. And at some point, the leverage shifts. And if Buehler's healthy, it's like, hey, is anybody going to end up getting him?
Well, I think he could be looking for a guarantee as opposed to an opportunity, right? That could be part of it too, that I don't want to come in and try to make your team. I want to come in and be on your team. And that's, something that can be negotiated as well. The Angel thing is interesting. These are the sorts of guys that the Angels have historically taken flyers on, and more often than not, it doesn't work out. But that doesn't mean it wouldn't work out again. I think the intensity that he brings is something that the Angels could certainly use. The Padres would be fascinating because, obviously you get to play against the Dodgers frequently. They need, as much help as they can get. But I think he's going to find an opportunity on a team more like the Angels than they are like the Padres. The Padres, are probably not going to win the division. I'm almost certain they're not going to win the division, but I think they're going to be in the mix to make a postseason. I think that they're among that next tier of teams that is very likely to be in the wild card mix. I don't think that the Angels necessarily are. So maybe he's more attracted to the potential of October baseball than just trying to slog through a 6-month Angel season, which feels like is inevitable coming up again this year. But I hope he lands on his feet somewhere. I'm a huge fan of his. I love his competitive spirit. I love his fire. I'm just not quite sure what the actual ability to get big league hitters out is anymore.
Let us know in the comments on YouTube. Where do you think Walker Buehler is going to land in 2026? He's not a Dodger anymore, but he's a World Series champ with the boys in blue. There will always be love for him, and we hope that two-time World Series champ with the Dodgers. We hope that he ends up landing on his feet, and he does great, except when he plays against the Dodgers. All right, that'll do it for today's pod. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Tomorrow, we close the week by asking this question. If the Dodgers don't three-peat, what's the most likely reason? If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Dodgers ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to LockedOnDodgers.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen Locked On MLB. We appreciate you riding with us. Until next time, keep it real. Keep it Dodger Blue.